The night was quiet. Outside, the wind pushed against the wooden walls of the old tavern, and the lanterns along the street flickered. Inside, the tavern was warm, filled with the smell of bread, roasted meat, and ale. Most of the seats were empty. The travelers had gone, the merchants had returned to their homes, and only a few drunk voices hummed near the back tables. Mira, a young human waitress, wiped down the last table of the night. Her hands were rough from years of work, and her brown hair had slipped loose from its knot. She was tired, but she was used to being tired. The tavern was her world. Serving food, carrying jugs of ale, sweeping floors, this was her life. Nothing ever changed, or so she thought. The heavy door creaked open, letting in a blast of cold night air. Myra turned, expecting another drunk traveler. But what came through the door was no man. It was no man. It was small, weak, crawling. At first, she thought it was some wounded animal, a dog, maybe. But when the creature dragged itself into the light, Mira froze. Her heart stopped. It was a dragon hatchling. Its scales, once golden, were cracked and dull. Its tiny wings hung broken at its sides. Its eyes, large and glowing faintly in the torchlight, blinked slowly, as though even breathing was too heavy. Blood marked its claws, and its tail trembled with each weak movement. Mira dropped her rag. She had heard stories of dragons, all her life, monsters of the skies, rulers of fire and storm. But never had she seen one, and never in all the tales had a dragon looked so helpless. The hatchling whimpered, a soft, broken sound that pulled at her heart. Without thinking, Mira rushed forward. Easy, little one, she whispered, her voice shaking. She knelt beside the creature. Its body was hot to the touch, burning like fire beneath fragile skin. Its breaths came in shallow gasps, and its eyes rolled weakly toward her. For a moment, Mira hesitated. She knew what this was. A dragon hatchling. To touch it was dangerous. To help it was unthinkable. But it was dying, and she could not walk away. With gentle arms, she lifted the hatchling, cradling it as if it were a newborn child. Its head rested against her shoulder, and its broken wings sagged across her arms. "Don't worry," she murmured. "I've got you. You'll be all right." But deep down, she wasn't sure. The tavern door banged again. This time it was not the wind. The air grew heavy, thick with something ancient and terrifying. A shadow fell across the tavern floor, stretching long and sharp. The drunk voices at the back went silent. Every candle seemed to shrink. Mira turned slowly, and there he was, the dragon. Emperor. He filled the doorway with his presence. His tall form, wrapped in black robes, embroidered with burning sigils, seemed to bend the air around him. His eyes glowed like molten gold, sharp and merciless. His hair, silver as moonlight, spilled across his shoulders, and his face was carved in lines of pride and fury. The tavern keeper fell to his knees. The drunk men at the back pressed themselves against the wall, too afraid to breathe, but the Emperor's gaze did not fall on them. It locked on Myra, and the hatchling in her arms. The world froze. The Emperor stepped forward. Each footstep echoed like thunder on the wooden floor. The heat of his presence made the air shimmer. His jaw tightened as his gaze sharpened on the fragile creature in Mira's embrace. "You." His voice was low, dangerous. "What are you doing with my child?" The words hit Mira like a blow. She staggered, clutching the hatchling tighter. His child? Her breath caught in her throat. This broken, bleeding hatchling? Was the heir of the Dragon Emperor? Her legs trembled, but she did not let go. He was hurt, Mira whispered, her voice shaking. "He crawled in here. I couldn't just leave him." The Emperor's eyes narrowed, blazing brighter. The air grew hotter, as though the tavern might catch fire at his command. "No human touches what is mine," he growled. His hand lifted, fingers curling, power gathering like a storm. "For this insult, you should burn." The tavern keeper cried out, begging for mercy. The men at the back covered their faces. Mira's heart pounded in her chest. She should have dropped the hatchling. She should have fallen to her knees. begged for her life. But when the hatchling whimpered weakly against her shoulder, something inside her hardened. She met the Emperor's gaze. "If you want to kill me, then do it," she said, her voice trembling but clear. "But don't take him away while he's broken. Let me heal him first. After that, do whatever you wish." For the first time in centuries, no one defied the Dragon Emperor to his face. And yet, this fragile human waitress had done it. The Emperor's hand froze in the air. The tavern was silent. The hatchling stirred, letting out a faint cry, and pressed itself closer to Mira's warmth. The sight made the Emperor's golden eyes flicker. His hand lowered slowly, the fire in his palm fading into smoke. The mighty Dragon Emperor, who ruled kingdoms and destroyed armies, stood still. His child had chosen the arms of a human, and for the first time in his immortal life, he hesitated. Would the Emperor strike her down for daring to touch his heir? Or would he spare her for reasons he himself could not yet understand? The answer would change both their lives forever. The tavern air was thick, as if the very walls held their breath. The Dragon Emperor stood tall, his golden eyes burning with rage, his aura pressing down like a storm about to break. No one dared move. No one dared speak. Mira could feel her knees trembling, but still she held the hatchling close. The little dragon whimpered, weak and broken, and pressed against her chest as if she were its only safety. The Emperor's voice cracked through the silence like thunder. "You dare hold the heir of dragons in your fragile human arms? You dare stain him with your weakness?" The tavern keeper bowed so low his forehead touched the floor. The other men had hidden their faces in their hands, praying the Emperor would not notice them. But his fury was fixed on one person only, Mira. The heat of his anger filled the room, making the wood of the walls creak and groan. The candles bent, their flames stretching high, struggling against the invisible wind of his power. Myra's chest tightened. She wanted to run, to hide, to escape. But the hatchling shifted and let out a faint cry. That sound? It cut through her fear like a knife. "I don't care who he is," she whispered, her voice barely steady. "He is a child, and he is hurt. Someone must help him." The Emperor's jaw clenched. He took one step closer. The wooden floorboards cracked under his weight, though his feet were bare. His shadow stretched across Mira until she felt swallowed by it. "No human dares to lecture me," he growled. "No human tells me what my child needs." His hand rose, claws gleaming faintly with firelight. Just one strike, and she would be nothing but ash. The tavern keeper gasped. Certain her end had come, but then the hatchling stirred. Its weak little claws dug into Mira's dress, and its eyes opened just enough to glow faintly. It whimpered again, a sound more like a plea than a cry. And then it did something no one in the tavern expected. It reached out toward Mira. The baby dragon nestled closer into her arms. Ignoring the Emperor's fiery presence, the heir of dragons had chosen the touch of a human over the embrace of its own father. The Emperor froze. His hand hung in the air, trembling. His eyes widened, not with anger, but with something else. Something no one had seen in centuries. Pain. For a moment, the great Emperor's face was unguarded. His fury flickered, and beneath it was something raw, something almost human. He lowered his hand slowly, the fire around his claws dying into sparks. "No," he whispered, his voice rough. "Why does he cling to you?" Mira swallowed hard, but she did not step back. She cradled the hatchling tighter, rocking it gently. "Because he needs comfort. Because he is afraid. Don't you see? He is not just your heir. He is a child." Her words cut through the silence. The Emperor's gaze snapped back to her, fierce once more. His mask of fury returned, hiding the moment of weakness. "You speak boldly for one so fragile," he said. His voice was softer, but the weight of power still pressed against her. "Do you not understand? To touch my heir is to risk your life. To hold him is to invite death. You are nothing but a human servant, yet you dare to claim the right to protect what is mine." Myra's hands shook, but she refused to let go. Her voice was quiet, almost trembling, yet steady enough to be heard. I don't claim anything. I only care. If you want to take him, take him. But don't let him suffer. Don't let him die. The words hung in the air, soft but unyielding. The tavern keeper looked up in shock. No one had ever spoken to the emperor that way and lived. The drunk men at the back muttered desperate prayers, certain this human waitress would be burned alive, but the emperor did not move. His golden eyes studied her, searching, as if she were a puzzle he had never faced before. Finally, his lips curled not in a smile. But in something sharper, you have courage, he said. But courage is not wisdom. Do you even know who I am? Mira took a shaky breath. Yes, the Dragon Emperor. Ruler of fire. Conqueror of skies. The one humans fear in every story told by firelight. Her eyes lifted, meeting his. But right now, you are only a father, and your child is broken. The silence that followed was heavier than thunder. The Emperor's chest rose and fell slowly, like a beast fighting to control its rage. His eyes burned brighter, yet there was something else behind them, conflict, doubt, a crack in the wall of fury that had stood for centuries. The hatchling whimpered again, and Mira rocked it gently. Its small claws tightened around her dress, refusing to let go. The Emperor exhaled, long and sharp. Very well, he said at last. You will carry him for now? But know this, human, if you fail him. If he dies in your arms, then your life will be mine to take. I will burn your world down until only ash remains. Do you understand? Mira's throat tightened, but she nodded. I understand. The Emperor turned his gaze to the trembling tavern keeper. Clear this place. No one speaks of what happened here tonight. No one. The man nodded so quickly, his forehead bled against the floor. The Emperor's eyes returned to Mira. He leaned close, his golden gaze like fire inches from her face. You walk on the edge of death, human. Do not forget it. Then, with a sweep of his black robes, he turned. The tavern doors opened as if pushed by unseen hands, and the night air rushed in. Follow me, he commanded. If you wish to keep the hatchling alive, you will not stay in this pit of wood and ale. You will come to my palace, and there, you will learn what it means to stand in the shadow of dragons. Mira's heart pounded. She looked down at the hatchling, its broken wings twitching weakly, its little body warm against her chest. Her world had always been small tables, mugs, sweeping floors. Now, with one choice, she was being pulled into the heart of something vast and terrifying. She tightened her arms around the hatchling, took a deep breath, and stepped after the Emperor into the night. Mira thought she had only saved a child, but in truth, she had stepped into the deadliest world of all the world of dragons, and soon she would learn. Not every enemy would come with wings, the road to the dragon. Emperor's palace wound through mountains black against the night sky. The air grew hotter with every step, as if the very stones beneath their feet held fire. Mira walked carefully. The broken hatchling cradled against her chest. Its breathing was shallow, but steady. Every now and then, it whimpered softly, and Mira whispered to it, promising that it was safe. Behind her, the tavern and her old life faded into the darkness. Ahead, the towering silhouette of the Dragon Emperor's palace rose like a mountain of black stone, its spires glowing faintly with embers. The Emperor walked before her, his stride long and commanding. He did not look back. He did not speak. His robe trailed behind him like a shadow, and the air around him shimmered with heat. Myra's heart pounded. Each step felt heavier than the last. She had defied the most feared being in the world, and somehow she was still alive. But she knew one wrong move, one mistake. She would not live to see another dawn. Still, she held the hatchling close. When they reached the palace gates, Mira stopped in awe. The gates were carved from black iron, taller than any tower she had ever seen. Dragons of stone curled along the walls, their mouths glowing faintly as though real fire burned within. Guards stood at attention. Tall dragonborn warriors clad in armor of obsidian scales. Their eyes glowed faintly in the dark. Each one watched her with suspicion and hatred. One guard stepped forward. His voice was low and sharp. "My Emperor. This human carries the air?" The Emperor's gaze cut to the guard, and the man bowed instantly, his head pressed to the ground. The other guards lowered their eyes as well. No one questioned the Emperor. No one except the girl walking beside him. The gates opened with a deep groan. And Mira followed the Emperor inside. The palace was alive with firelight. Torches burned blue, casting shadows across golden halls. The air was heavy with the scent of smoke and molten stone. Dragons, both young and ancient, moved through the corridors. Some shrank into smaller forms to pass through the halls, while others lingered as shadows of wings and flame. Every eye turned to Mira. Every whisper carried hatred. A human. In the palace, Mira kept her gaze low, but her grip on the hatchling did not weaken. She felt the weight of every glare pressing against her, daring her to falter. But she walked on, each step steady. The Emperor led her into a great chamber, its ceiling lost in shadows. At its center burned a pit of molten fire, casting orange light across the room. The heat was suffocating, and Mira could feel sweat on her skin. The Emperor turned. His golden eyes locked on her. "Lay him down." Mira hesitated. Her arms tightened around the hatchling. "He's too weak to lie on stone," she said softly. The chamber fell silent. The guards stiffened. Even the flames seemed to flicker lower. No one refused the Dragon Emperor. But Mira's voice did not waver. "If I put him on the floor, the cold stone will hurt him. He needs warmth. He needs care." The Emperor's eyes narrowed dangerously. His aura flared, the heat crushing against her like a wave of fire. Her knees almost buckled. Her lungs burned. But still, she held the hatchling close. For a moment, she thought he would kill her where she stood. But then the hatchling stirred. Its claws clung weakly to her dress, its small voice letting out a faint cry. The Emperor's power faltered. His gaze softened, just slightly. "You speak with courage," he said slowly. "Or is it foolishness?" Mira swallowed hard. "Maybe both. But I will not let him suffer. Not while I can help." The guards looked at one another in disbelief. This human dared to stand against fire itself. The Emperor studied her in silence. Then, to the shock of everyone present, he lowered his hand. His power faded like smoke in the wind. "Very well," he said at last. "You will keep him in your arms." For now, a murmur of outrage rose among the guards. But the Emperor's gaze silenced them instantly. He stepped closer to Mira, his presence filling the chamber. His voice was low, dangerous. "But hear me, human. Do not mistake my mercy for weakness. If you falter, if the child's breath stops in your arms, then your life will end in fire. Do you understand?" Mira's legs trembled, but her voice was steady. "I understand." The Emperor turned away, his robe trailing across the floor. "Bring her to the healer's chambers," he ordered the guards. "The child must be mended." 2 guards approached, their glares sharp enough to cut. One hissed under his breath, low so only Mira could hear, "You should not be here, human. The Emperor may spare you now, but the court will not." "You will not leave this palace alive." Mira said nothing. She only held the hatchling tighter as the guards led her deeper into the palace. Whispers followed her like smoke. Hatred, suspicion, threats. But beneath all of it, Mira felt something stronger within herself. Fear still clung to her heart. Yes, but there was also courage. She had stood before the Dragon Emperor's fury and had not broken. For the first time in her life, she realized something. She was only a waitress. A nobody, yet somehow. She had protected the heir of dragons, and no matter what came next, she would not let him go. But in the shadows of the palace, others had seen what happened. And not all dragons would allow a human to hold the future of their kind. The healer's chambers smelled of smoke and herbs. Strange jars lined the walls, filled with powders that glowed faintly, and bowls of ash sat beside them. At the center was a wide stone bed covered with dark silk. Mira stood in the doorway, still clutching the broken hatchling against her chest. The guards had left, but their glares lingered in her memory. Every dragon she passed in the palace had looked at her with suspicion or hatred now. Only the healer remained. He was an old dragon, his body bent in the form of a thin man. His scales showed faintly at his throat, black with streaks of silver. His eyes, sharp and weary, studied Myra in silence. "You are the one holding the air," he said at last, his voice slow and gravelly. Myra nodded. "Yes, but he is weak. Please help him." The healer stepped closer, his clawed hands hovering above the hatchling. His brow furrowed as he traced the lines of broken wings, the cracked scales, the wounds that still bled faintly. "This is no sickness," he murmured. "No accident. These wounds were made." Myra's heart tightened. "Made? What do you mean?" The healer's golden eyes flicked to hers, sharp and grim. "Someone struck him. Someone wanted the air broken." The words hit her like a blow. She looked down at the small dragon in her arms. Its chest rose and fell weakly, its breath hot against her skin. She had thought it was just a wounded creature, lost and helpless. But now, she realized someone had tried to kill him. Her arms tightened around the hatchling. "But who would dare?" she whispered. The healer shook his head. "I do not know. But there are those in the court who would rather see the Emperor without an heir. Power is a dangerous fire. Even dragons burn themselves chasing it." Before Mira could answer, the door opened. The Dragon Emperor entered. His presence filled the chamber, his aura heavy and hot. The healer bowed instantly, lowering his head until it nearly touched the floor. Myra did not bow. She could not. Her arms were full of the hatchling. She would not let go. The Emperor's gaze went first to his child, then to her. "What do you see?" he asked the healer. The old dragon's voice trembled. "My Emperor, these are wounds of intent. Someone struck the air with purpose. This was no accident." The Emperor's jaw tightened. For a moment, the chamber seemed to shake, the fire and the torches leaping high. "Who?" His voice was low, deadly. "I cannot say," the healer whispered. "But it was someone strong. Someone close." The Emperor's eyes blazed like molten gold. His fury was barely contained. Myra spoke before she could stop herself. "Then you cannot trust your court. You cannot trust the ones around you." The room fell silent. The healer's head snapped toward her in shock. No human spoke so boldly before the Emperor, but Myra stood firm. She felt the weight of the Emperor's gaze pressing down on her, yet she did not look away. "He is your child," she said softly, her voice trembling but steady. "And someone tried to take him from you? If you cannot trust those closest to you, then maybe you need someone who has nothing to gain." The Emperor studied her in silence. His fury still burned, but there was something else in his eyes now, curiosity. "You speak as though you wish to stand in my court," he said. "Do you understand what that means, human? This palace is not a tavern. Here, every word is a blade. Every shadow hides an enemy. You would be torn apart." Myra looked down at the hatchling. Its claws clung weakly to her sleeve, as if refusing to let go. "I don't care," she said. "If it means he is safe, then I'll face whatever comes." The Emperor's lips curved slightly, not in a smile, but in something sharper. "Courage again. You humans burn fast, like dry wood. Let us see if your flame lasts." He turned to the healer. "Do what you can. She will remain with the child." "Ah!" The healer hesitated. His eyes flicked to Mira. "My Emperor, it is dangerous. To place the air in human arms enough?" The Emperor's voice cut like a blade. "He clings to her. That is enough reason." The healer bowed his head. "Yes, my Emperor." The Emperor stepped closer to Mira, his golden gaze locked with hers. "But hear this, Waitress. If you betray me, if I see even the faintest shadow of deceit, you will not die quickly. You will beg for death, and I will deny it." Mira's throat tightened, but she did not look away. "Then I will not betray you." The Emperor studied her for a long, tense moment. Then he turned and left, his robes trailing firelight in his wake. The door closed. The chamber fell silent again, except for the faint crackle of torches and the hatchling's weak breaths. The healer sighed deeply. You are a fool, human. Do you understand what danger you have placed yourself in? Mira stroked the hatchling's head gently. I understand, but he needs me. That's all that matters. The healer shook his head, muttering to himself as he gathered herbs. But Myra knew, deep in her heart, that the old dragon was wrong. She was no fool. She had seen the truth. The Emperor's court was a nest of shadows and fire. The hatchling's wounds were not just marks on his body, they were signs of treachery, betrayal, and secrets hidden in the heart of dragons. And Myra, a simple human waitress, had stepped into the middle of it all. In the shadows of the palace, unseen eyes watched Mira with hatred. And even as she held the broken hatchling, she did not know someone was already plotting her death. The palace of the dragons was a place of fire and whispers. Its golden halls burned with torches that never went out, ceilings painted with battles where dragons crushed kingdoms beneath their wings. But for Mira, every step through those halls felt like walking into the mouth of a beast. The next morning, 2 guards, their armor of black scales gleaming in the light, came to her small chamber. They did not speak. They did not need to. Their eyes, full of hatred, said enough. Bring the human. One growled. Mira followed, still cradling the hatchling in her arms. The little one had grown a little stronger overnight, though its wings still drooped, and its breath was soft. Every time it shifted closer to her, she felt a bit braver. The guards led her into the court of fire. The chamber was vast. The walls lined with dragon statues, their eyes glowing faintly as if alive. The floor was polished obsidian, and the ceiling opened into a dome of flame that never smoked. Around the circle sat nobles' dragons in their human forms, their golden eyes burning with suspicion. Their voices were low, sharp whispers like snakes hissing in the dark. At the head of the court sat the Emperor. His presence as heavy as stone, his gaze as sharp as steel. When Mira entered, the whispers grew louder. A human. She dares walk into the court. She carries the air. Why is she allowed to touch him? Mira kept her head high, though her heart pounded. She stepped into the center of the chamber and stopped before the throne. The hatchling stirred, pressing close against her chest. One noble stood. His hair was dark as ash, his eyes sharp with contempt. His voice rang across the chamber. My Emperor, this is an insult. To let a human into our sacred court, and worse to let her lay hands on the air of fire, is madness. Others nodded, their voices rising. She must be cast out. She has bewitched the hatchling. No human can be trusted. The Emperor raised his hand. Instantly, the court fell silent. His golden eyes swept the chamber, and then he spoke. The air clings to her. That is enough reason. He chose her arms over all others. Murmurs rippled through the nobles, but none dared speak against the Emperor directly. Still, their glares fell upon Myra like daggers. The dark-haired noble stepped forward again. His lip curled as he pointed at her. She is dangerous, my Emperor. Even now, she whispers poison. Do you not see? She seeks power, like all humans. She dares to stand before us as though she were equal. Give me the word, and I will remove her myself. Mira's blood ran cold, but she did not step back. Her grip on the hatchling tightened. She looked at the noble, then at the Emperor. Her voice shook, but she forced the words out. I do not want power. I only want him to live. If that is a crime, then let your fire take me now. The chamber fell into stunned silence. No one had ever spoken with such defiance in the court, not even the dragon, nobles themselves. The Emperor leaned forward on his throne. His eyes blazed, but not with anger, with interest. You speak boldly again, human, he said. His voice echoed across the chamber. But words are not enough. If you would keep the air, then you must prove yourself before the court. Mira's throat tightened. How? The Emperor rose from his throne, his shadow stretching long across the chamber. His presence pressed down on everyone, even the nobles. You will face the shadows, he said. If you survive, the court will be silent. If you fail, his eyes burned into hers. You will die, and the hatchling will forget you ever lived. Gasps filled the chamber. Even the nobles looked shocked. The shadows? No human had ever faced them. Even some dragons had not returned. Mira's heart pounded. She wanted to run, to cry, to beg for mercy. But the hatchling shifted in her arms, letting out a faint whimper. She looked down at it, at its broken wings and fragile body. If she turned away, it would be left to those who hated it. Left to the ones who had already tried to kill it, Mira lifted her head. Her voice was quiet but steady. Then I will face the shadows. The court erupted in noise. Some laughed, cruel and sharp. Others muttered that she was already dead. A few watched in silence, their expressions unreadable. The emperor raised his hand again, and silence returned. So be it, he said. At dawn, the trial begins. He turned his gaze to Mira, his eyes burning brighter than the flames above. Prepare yourself, human. The shadows do not show mercy. The guard stepped forward, ready to drag her away. But Mira held the hatchling tighter, her chin raised. For the first time since she entered the palace, she felt something strange. Not just fear. Not just courage. Something else. The shadows might kill her. But if she lived, she would prove, once and for all, that she was more than just a waitress. As Mira left the court, unseen eyes followed her. In the darkness above, hidden in the rafters, someone whispered, "She will not survive the night." The night before the trial was heavy with silence. Mira sat in the small chamber the guards had given her. The walls were made of black stone, the air thick with the faint smell of smoke. A single torch flickered in the corner, its flame weak, as if even fire feared to burn too brightly near her. The hatchling lay in her arms, breathing softly. Its body was fragile, its wings limp, but its warmth pressed against her chest gave her strength. Mira whispered to it, even though she knew it could not yet understand her words. "Stay strong, little one," she said. "Tomorrow, I'll keep you safe. I promise." She closed her eyes, exhaustion pulling at her. But sleep was dangerous in the Dragon Emperor's palace, and tonight, danger was already moving. In the shadows outside her chamber, a figure crept along the corridor. His movements were silent, his body cloaked in black. His eyes glowed faintly red dragon eyes, filled with hatred. He carried no torch, no weapon of steel. Instead, his hands burned faintly with fire, a flame so thin it did not light the dark. It was the fire of silence, made for killing. The emperor might have allowed the human to live for now, but the nobles would not. And one of them had sent this assassin to end the insult before the trial could even begin. No, human would live to stand before the shadows. Inside the chamber, Mira stirred. Her eyes snapped open, her heart racing. She didn't know why, but something felt wrong. The air was too still. The torch flame flickered once, then went out. Darkness swallowed the room. Mira's breath caught. She clutched the hatchling tighter, backing against the wall. Her ears strained for sound, and then she heard its soft footsteps, moving closer. "Who's there?" she whispered, her voice shaking. A low hiss answered her. "You should never have touched him, human." Sesson's voice was like burning coal. Cold, cruel, a shape moved in the dark, faintly glowing red eyes drawing closer. Fear gripped Mira's chest, but she forced herself to think. She had no weapon, no armor, no way to fight a dragon assassin, but she had something else, her will to protect the hatchling. She looked around quickly. The room was bare, except for the torch holder and a clay water jug in the corner. Her eyes fixed on the jug. Water, she moved fast. Keeping the hatchling in one arm, she grabbed the jug with the other and hurled it toward the sound. The jug shattered, water splashing across the assassin's hidden flames. He hissed in anger, the fire sputtering. "You dare?" he snarled. Mira didn't answer. She bolted for the door, clutching the hatchling tight. But the assassin was faster. A hand of fire slammed against the wall beside her, blocking her way. Heat scorched her skin. "Nowhere to run," he whispered. "The child dies with you." The hatchling whimpered in her arms, its claws weakly digging into her dress. The sound cut through Mira's fear. Her voice rose, desperate but fierce. You'll have to kill me first, and I will not let go. The assassin's eyes narrowed. He raised his hand, flames curling into a deadly blade. But before he could strike, the air shook. The walls trembled. A roar thundered through the palace, so powerful that even the stones seemed to quake. The assassin froze, his eyes wide. The door to the chamber burst open in a storm of fire and heat. And there, filling the doorway, stood the Dragon Emperor. His golden eyes burned like suns. His aura filled the room, crushing the assassin to his knees. You dare touch my blood? The Emperor's voice thundered, shaking the walls. The assassin gasped, choking under the weight of the Emperor's power. His flames flickered out, leaving him weak and trembling. My Emperor, he rasped. I was. Sent silence, the Emperor roared. With a flick of his hand, fire engulfed the assassin. The man screamed once before vanishing into ash, the heat so intense that even the stone of the walls glowed red. The room fell silent. Except for Myra's ragged breathing and the faint cries of the hatchling, the Emperor turned, his eyes falling on Mira. His gaze was sharp, unreadable. You live, he said. His voice was calmer now, but still heavy with power. And you protected him. Adenia's knees almost gave out. She clutched the hatchling tighter, her voice barely a whisper. They tried to kill him. They'll try again. The Emperor stepped closer, his shadow falling over her. For the first time, his voice softened. Yes, he said. They will. He looked down at the hatchling, then back at Mira. Tomorrow, the trial will decide your fate. But tonight, you have shown courage. Few have ever stood against fire and lived. Mira swallowed hard, her body trembling. I don't care about me. I just want him safe. The Emperor's golden eyes lingered on her, searching, judging. Then, without another word, he turned and left the chamber. The guards outside rushed in, bowing low. The Emperor's voice thundered down the hall. Double the guard. If another hand rises against them tonight, I will burn this court to ash. When the chamber was quiet again, Mira sank to the floor, her back against the wall. Her arms ached from holding the hatchling so tightly, but she would not let go. The little one pressed its head against her heart, as if it knew what had just happened. Mira closed her eyes, whispering, We survived. But what about tomorrow? In the highest tower of the palace, hidden from the Emperor's gaze, the dark-haired noble who had spoken against Myra watched the flames rise into the night sky. She won tonight, he murmured. But tomorrow? The shadows will devour her. Dawn came with fire in the sky. The palace courtyard was silent as Mira stepped forward, still holding the broken hatchling close against her chest. The rising sun painted the walls in red and gold, but the air was heavy with dread. All the nobles were gathered. Their sharp eyes burned with hate, some with curiosity, others with hunger to see her fail. The Dragon Emperor sat high upon his throne of black stone, his golden eyes fixed on her. Before Mira stood a great gate of iron. Carved into its surface were twisted shapes dragons screaming. Humans falling, shadows writhing. The air around it was cold, colder than any place she had ever known. As though the sun itself refused to touch it. This was the Gate of Shadows. One of the guards stepped forward. His voice was hard. Once the human enters, the trial begins. No weapon, no torch. Only her courage. The nobles laughed softly, cruel and sharp. She won't last a minute. The shadows will eat her alive. Her screams will be her answer. Mira swallowed hard, her arms tightening around the hatchling. Its breathing was calm, as if it trusted her completely. She whispered to it, her voice trembling, Stay with me, little one, no matter what happens. The Emperor's voice cut through the air, deep and commanding. The trial begins now. The iron gates groaned open, revealing a tunnel of darkness. No light reached inside. It was as though the world itself ended beyond the gate. Mira stepped forward. Every instinct screamed at her to turn back, but she forced her legs to move, one step, then another. The hatchling whimpered softly, but she held it close, and then the gates shut behind her. The darkness was absolute. Mira could not see her own hands, could not see the floor beneath her feet. The air was icy, heavy, pressing against her chest. She took a step. The sound echoed, too loud, as if the shadows were listening. Another step. Then another. A whisper slithered through the dark. "Why do you carry him, human?" Myra froze. The voice was not her own. It was everywhere, in the air, in her bones. She forced her voice steady. "Because he needs me," laughter answered her, cold and cruel. "He is broken, worthless. You risk your life for nothing." Mira tightened her grip on the hatchling. "He's not worthless. He matters." The laughter grew louder, echoing until it shook her heart. Then, without warning, the ground beneath her feet gave way. She fell. The hatchling cried out in her arms as she tumbled through darkness. She hit hard stone, pain shooting through her side. But she refused to let go. When she opened her eyes, faint light flickered around her. Shapes moved in the shadows, long arms, twisted bodies, glowing eyes. They were not dragons. They were not human. They were the shadows themselves. One stepped closer, its face shifting like smoke. Its voice was a hiss. "Give him to us. Leave him here, and we will let you go." Myra's heart raced. Every instinct screamed to run, to hide, to give up, but she looked down at the fragile creature in her arms, and her fear hardened into something stronger. "No," she said, her voice firm. "I'll never give him to you." The shadows screamed, their cries sharp and endless. They rushed forward, claws reaching. Mira ran. Her feet slapped against stone, her arms clutching the hatchling. The shadows howled behind her, closing in. The air grew colder, heavier, pressing against her lungs. She stumbled, almost falling. Her legs burned. But she kept going. Suddenly the path split into two tunnels. One left, one right. Both were black and endless. The shadows closed in behind her. She had seconds to choose. She shut her eyes, listening. To her surprise, the hatchling stirred. It gave a weak cry, its head turning toward the left path. Mira trusted it. Without hesitation, she ran left. The shadows followed. Their screams shaking the tunnel walls. The darkness grew thicker, pressing against her like water. Her breaths came ragged, her strength failing. She could feel them reaching for her, claws brushing against her arms, her back. Then ahead, she saw something. A faint glow. She ran toward it, her body screaming with pain. The glow grew brighter, golden like sunlight. She stumbled into a wide chamber, its center lit by a pool of glowing fire. The shadows stopped at the edge of the light, hissing and writhing. They dared not step closer. Mira fell to her knees, gasping for breath. The hatchling stirred weakly in her arms, its eyes reflecting the glow of the fire. She looked at the pool, unsure. The flames moved like water, bright but not burning. Something deep in her heart told her this was the answer. But what if it killed him? She hesitated, fear clawing at her. The shadows screamed behind her, their voices filling the chamber. The light would not hold them forever. Mira held the hatchling close, whispering through her tears. "I don't know if this will save you, but I can't let you die without trying." She stepped forward, lowering the hatchling toward the glowing fire. The moment the hatchling touched the light, the chamber shook. The shadows screamed louder than ever, their shapes tearing apart, and the hatchling's body began to glow. The chamber of shadows shook as if the world itself was breaking apart. Mira held her breath as the broken hatchling touched the glowing fire. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then light exploded, brighter than the sun. The hatchling's small body glowed gold, its broken wings stretching as if pulled by unseen strength. Cracks of light ran across its scales, burning away weakness. Mira shielded her eyes, but she refused to let go. Even as heat seared her skin, she held the little one close. The shadows shrieked in rage, their dark forms twisting and breaking apart. The light spread through the chamber, devouring them one by one until silence fell. When Mira dared to look again, the hatchling was no longer weak. It stood on its own tiny claws, glowing faintly with golden fire. Its wings, once limp, now spread wide, strong, and whole. Its eyes burned bright as the sun, and they were locked on Myra. The hatchling let out a cry, not of pain, but of power. Fire swirled around it, wrapping Myra in warmth instead of flame. She gasped. It was as if the hatchling had shared its strength with her. The bruises on her arms eased, her burning skin cooled. She felt stronger, braver, as if the little dragon had given her a piece of its fire. The trial was over. The iron gates groaned open. Myra, holding the now strong hatchling, stepped into the courtyard. Gasps filled the air. The nobles stared in disbelief, their eyes wide, their whispers frantic. She survived the shadows. Impossible. The hatchling. It is healed. The emperor rose slowly from his throne. His golden eyes locked onto Myra and the hatchling. For a long moment, he said nothing. The silence pressed heavy over the court. Then his voice rang out, deep and thunderous. The trial has been completed. The shadows have chosen. The hatchling lives because of her. Nobles roared in anger. Others shouted in protest. The dark-haired noble who had hated Myra most stepped forward, his face twisted with fury. This is a trick. She bewitched him. No human could survive the shadows. The emperor's gaze fell on him, sharp as a blade. Do you doubt the trial itself? Do you claim the shadows lie? The noble faltered, his voice choking. He lowered his head, but his fists trembled with rage. The emperor turned back to Myra. For the first time, there was no threat in his gaze, no judgment. Only something deeper. Respect you, he said, his voice softer but still heavy. A human waitress. Fragile, weak. Yet you walked into the darkness with nothing but your courage, and returned with my air stronger than before. He stepped down from his throne, his presence filling the courtyard. He stood before Myra, taller than any man, his golden eyes blazing. In my life, I have burned kingdoms. I have crushed armies. I have trusted no human, for humans are selfish, hungry, always reaching for power. He looked at her, his voice lowering. But you did not seek power. You risked everything for him. Even when fire and shadow rose against you, you did not let go. The courtyard was silent. Every noble, every guard, even the hatchling, watched in stillness. The emperor's next words shook the palace. From this day forward, you are under my protection. You are the guardian of the air, and none shall lay a hand on you without facing my fire. Gasps echoed. Some nobles shouted in anger, others fell silent in shock. A human protected by the emperor himself? It was unthinkable, but no one dared defy him. Myra's knees trembled. She had never wanted honor, never sought power. She only wanted the hatchling safe. But now, before all the dragons of the court, she had been given a place no human had ever held. The hatchling pressed its head against her chest, its wings wrapping slightly around her arm, as if to claim her in return. And in that moment, Myra understood something. Her life would never return to what it was. She was no longer just a waitress. She had stepped into fire and shadows, and she had come out stronger, high above. In the towers of the palace, the dark-haired noble watched with burning hatred. His whisper carried into the night. This is not the end, human. The shadows may have failed, but I will not. Back in the courtyard, the emperor turned to the court, his voice booming like thunder. Let it be known. The human has proven her worth. The hatchling lives because of her, and his fire shall grow with her by his side. He looked once more at Myra, his golden eyes softer than anyone had ever seen. You have changed the fate of dragons, human, and you have changed mine. The nobles bowed, their voices silent. The hatchling glowed faintly in Myra's arms, and though danger still lurked in the shadows of the court, one thing was certain. The Dragon Emperor's life, and the future of his kind, would never be the same again.